In an earlier class, we had seen about what is a region, etc., and then about regional development. In today's class, let us see what are the types of region. We have been hearing about regions, so what are the various types of region? So when we say about regions, generally we have these types of regions. So when we say about regions, so these are the various types of regions. So regions can be delineated based upon certain factors. So what are the factors? First is the regional economics. So based upon regional economics, based upon multi-level planning, based upon stages of development and activity status. So the first thing is regional economics. So according to regional economics, it can be again further subdivided into homogeneous or formal regions. Then comes the nodal regions, or the polarized regions, or the heterogeneous regions, or functional regions. Then comes the planning and the programming regions. Similarly, there are the other classifications in multi-level planning, which you can just go through the slide, that is macro, meso, and micro, etc. So we will be going through each of these in detail. So first of all is the homogeneous region or the formal region. So when we speak about, see this word homogeneous. Homogeneous, we all know what is the meaning of the word homogeneous. So in a formal region or a homogeneous region are those regions which has got homogeneous characteristics or similar characteristics. So that will we have some common characteristics. What might be the common characteristics? That may be the physical characteristics or maybe the cultural characteristics. So, for example, over here, India has been subdivided into certain zones. So, for example, this is the northeastern zone. That means there is some common characteristics in this zone. Then the northwestern zone. So, over here, this is the picture of the Pampas region. This is the grassland region. So, what is the common characteristic over there? The common characteristic is the grassland, the kind of grassland over there. So, this is a homogeneous or formal regions. That means there is a sort of homogeneity, or which means that there is a certain kind of a similar characteristics in these regions. Now, thus the opposite happens in here, that is the nodal region or the polarized region, etc. So over here in a polarized region or a nodal region or a heterogeneous, etc., this kind of a region generally consists of a central place and surrounding regions around that central place. So what happens is the surrounding places, they look towards this central place. They look towards this main place. They look towards this focus place. They look towards this functional place. Why do they look towards this? Because for service, for various kinds of service, generally for the various economic services, the various social services, etc. Now, central place, it do not mean that this is located at the center. Now, what is central place? There are various theories of central place. So you can go through the theories of central place. Now, this influence, this central place, because of the central place, so the central place's influence or the functions, they extend not only in this central place, but they extend into the surrounding places also. That is beyond the city also. So that means that there must be a central or a nuclei or a large town. And this large town is large because of the service or for the economic reasons. So this large town, so they will obviously, for example, the various villages or the various surrounding villages around the metropolitan cities or the surrounding regions around the metropolitan cities or the various surrounding towns around the metropolitan cities. So that means this is just the opposite of homogeneous region. We found certain sort of homogeneous characteristic. We are finding a heterogeneous characteristic. The central place, the characteristic between the central place and the surrounding places will have a heterogeneous characteristic. So this central place is also called the nodal place, is also called the functional place, is also called the polarized place. So the surrounding regions will be depending upon this central place because of the various functions, which can be service, which can be economic, etc., etc. So this is about the heterogeneous regions. You can take the example of any metropolitan cities, or for that matter, you can take the example of isol city. So that is a polarized, that is a heterogeneous, that is a nodal, etc. So any sort of in all the metropolitan cities, for example, Kolkata, that is a heterogeneous, that is a nodal region. So the region surrounding it depends upon Kolkata for various functions. Next comes a very important region for regional planning, that is the planning and the programming regions. So generally the planning and the programming regions, this is a multi-level setup. Why multi-level setup? You just try to remember the concept of region. Over there, I have told you that there is no specific concept of region. The concept of region varies according our requirement. So that can be a small village, a small block, or that can be up to the national level or multinational level. So that is why, depending upon the region which needs to be planned, we have a multi-level setup. So what are the multi-level setup? It is given over here: the national level, the macro level, etc., the state level, meso level, micro level. That is the thing. So over here you see, this is the person Klassen. He has defined what should be a planning region. You can just go through the definition. So, in very short, a planning region is what? It is a region which will definitely have some problems. Because it has problems, that is why we need to plan for that region. So, it will definitely have some problem which obviously needs to be solved through planning. How we need to solve it? By making certain decisions, by making certain changes, where changes in its population, in its employment characteristics, in its economic size, some changes needs to be made. And that changes, for making that changes, we require a manpower base. And that manpower base should be present in that region only. We do not need to hire people from outside. And also we must have some resource. And because we will have some resource, because we will have some manpower base, that will lead to some growth point. And that growth point will lead to accumulation of more industries. And when there will be more industries, that will lead to the development of that region. So in short, you can say that there, since a region, like a planning region, should be defined according to one's purpose. Why? Because region, we do not have a definite plan, we do not have a definite definition of a region. So since there might be some definite problems which needs to be addressed, we need some regional plan. Now, what kind of a regional plan? That can be a national plan, that can be a district plan, that can be a block plan, or that can be according to our requirement. Next, let us come to the multi-level planning. In multi-level planning, as you had seen in the initial slide, it can be divided into certain other regions. The first being the macro region. So from the word itself, you know that this is obviously the biggest. In a multi-level planning, this stands for the biggest category of region. So the multi-level can be what? It can be a state, or even a group of state, or a zone which can comprise of a few states, like that. So for example, we have the east zone, the west zone, etc., the central zones. So when we speak about east zone, so all the states which are in the eastern side of India will come under the eastern zone. Generally it happens that for like a big river valley project, because river do not fall only in one state, it falls in a multiple number of states. So generally for a big river valley project, or there might be some other reasons, we delineate macro zones, because for that we have to delineate a specific zone through which that river passes. So that zone may be homogeneous in characteristic, physical characteristic, or it might be heterogeneous also. How heterogeneous I have given over here. but it should have a common resource base. So for example, over here, the resource base is the river valley project. There might be something others also. For example, the Chota Nagpur Plateau. The Chota Nagpur Plateau encompasses some parts of the states of Orissa, of West Bengal, of Chhattisgarh, etc. So that means that is what is the resource over there? The mining resource. And obviously it is a macro region because it encompasses various states. So India has been divided into certain macro regions, which you can see over here. Then comes the meso, which is the next in stage from the macro. Now this consists of what? Several districts or the subdivision of a state. For example, the Chhattisgarh region, the Bundelkhand region, etc. So it can be, again, it can be a cultural region, which is a homogeneous region. It can be an administrative region, or it can be a nodal region. So India has around 58 mesoregions. So in microregion, as the name itself suggests, it's the smallest, it is the lowest territorial unit, and for planning, and in the hierarchy of planning, this comes in the lowest rung. And district, as you can see, district is the most viable microregion. Why viable? I'm using the word viable. Viable because a district has got a compact administration. When you have more than one administration, then there becomes various bottlenecks comes. Maybe it is passed, the plan is passed from one administration, it gets stuck in other administration. But when it is in a district, then there is no problem of getting stuck. So these are the various examples which has been given of the microregion. It can be a metropolitan area, a mineral belt, etc., etc. Then comes the minor region. Generally, this is a grassroots. This is for grassroots level planning. When we speak of grassroots level planning, that means it is a block level planning. But this block level planning do not have a plan of its own. Till microregion, they can have a plan of its own. For a block level planning, they have to plan according to the national level, according to the district level, according to the state level. They cannot operate separately. So whatever is their plan, whatever is the plan of the micro or the meso or the major, etc. So based upon that, they have to implement the plan in that specific block. For example, if we speak about certain block development planning, we can say about rainwater harvesting, which can be done in the various blocks. If we speak about the northeastern belt, about the Himalayan foothills, the states in the Himalayan foothills, which have got spring resources, we can think about the spring shed development. In the plain lands, we can think about community farming. So these are some of the block level planning in the minor regions. Then comes the next, that is the developed region. So the next in run, that is a developed region. Now I have told you about the developed region in more detail in the previous lecture. What is a developed region and what is an underdeveloped region? So a developed region, a very common definition is that obviously the share in the GDP of the country is high. And this region can be with or without rich natural resources, but it is very important that the developed region to have technology and highly skilled, motivated persons. If you check the developed regions of the world, for example, I take the example of Japan. You won't find Japan to have very high, rich natural resources. But what Japan has is high technology. What it has is highly skilled person. Take the example of Israel. Israel do not have very rich natural resources, but what it has are these. The various countries of Europe, they do not have very rich natural resources, but they do have this. On the other hand, take the example of Africa. Africa has rich natural resources, but they lack this. That is why they do not fall under developed region. Then we come to the backward region or the depressed region. I have already told you, given you example, what is an backward depressed region in my previous lecture. So these are thoroughly depressed region. Over here, economy is largely subsistence one. For example, Africa, certain parts, not the whole of Africa, certain parts of Africa, or the Bimaru states of India. Again, not the whole of the Bimaru states, certain parts of the Bimaru states of India, where the economy is largely subsistence one, subsistence economy. What is a subsistence economy? That is a primary sector, the agriculture or mining, etc. In these regions, we have a lack of infrastructure facilities. There is low investment rate. There is high growth rate of population. Because of these, and there is low urbanization, etc., they are still backward region or the depressed region. Then we find the vestigial regions are the regions which has got high share of the tribal population, where again these problems are there. Then we have the neutral regions or the intermediate regions. These comes under the neutral regions, that is the new towns and the satellite belts. Now, to give you an example of satellite belts, for example, the Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake area of Kolkata, these have been newly formed. Now, these regions, they have got good prospects for further development. Why? Because generally they are not congested, first of all. Then they are a little bit away from the main urban center. They have got good employment generation prospects. There might be the service sector is very well developed there. The IT sector, the service sector, etc., is the manufacturing sector, etc., is highly developed over there. So these are the neutral regions. There are certain intermediate regions. They are also called the islands of development around the sea of stagnation. For example, let us take the example of the metropolitan regions. The metropolitan regions are surrounding which, not all metropolitan regions, surrounding which there are areas of poverty. For example, Patna, Jamshedpur, etc. These are the intermediate regions. Next comes the mineral regions. So these regions, the mineral regions, you can see over here, these are the mineral belts of India, the various mineral belts of India. These regions, they have got short-term development. Why the word short-term development? Because when, as the mines, they continue to yield yield the minerals, the regions will develop. Now, after the minerals get exhausted, the regions will again bear a deserted look, like over here, bear a deserted look. People will move away to other places because there is no scope of mining. So obviously they won't be staying over there. See, this is the picture that I have given over here is of Jharia. Jharia is a coal belt, coal mine. Now, in this particular region, that the settlement was there, but then when the coal mines got exhausted, then what happened? See, there you won't find a single soul over here. Everything is there. The houses, even the table over here is there. The wire lines are over here, but there is no human over here. So almost a ghost town. This takes a look of almost a ghost town. So it is very important that a diversification of economy is required. Now, like for example, I have given over here the Middle East, the picture of the Middle East. They have diversified the economy. They have done enough adequate planning how to diversify so that when the oil wealth will exhaust, their economy won't go back to the backwardness. So this is the Palm Island, etc. So this is the example of Middle East. So they have very nicely, they have diversified their economy. Now, there are certain places, what they do is that the ore that is found over there, instead of developing it in that place, like Bailadila over here, they export it, they just sell it. But on the other hand, if we can do some industrial development, then that could have helped for some economic development, and that could have made them made their economy to diversify. Next comes the manufacturing regions. So there are some regions which becomes manufacturing. These are the various manufacturing regions of India. It is not that in these regions you will find mineral reserves. It is not that. But because of but because of infrastructural development, because of the various infrastructural development, they have become manufacturing regions. Just try to remember what I had told you about the developed regions. So it is not that they are having rich iron reserves, but because they are having rich infrastructure, because they are having government support, that is why they are having this, they are known as the manufacturing regions. So you can just go through, these are the various manufacturing regions of India, which has been marked over here. And one of the very, one of the important features, one of the interesting features in these regions is that they have got both internal and external economies in them available. This makes them keep growing. They keep on growing. Earlier, it was just in this Mumbai and Pune. Now, this has, the whole thing has become Mumbai Pune megalopolis region. The whole thing, or the Mumbai Pune and this Ahmedabad, that is the Gujarat industrial region. The whole thing has become one huge region because of development. So, but what happens with increased development, like for example, in this Hooghly belt of Kolkata, because there is too much of development, so obviously people will want to come over here and settle over here for economic reasons. So, what will happen? This will happen, high population density. With high population density and more manufacturing units, what will happen? More pollution will be there. With more pollution, what will be there? And more population, there will be reduction in the quality of life. So generally in the manufacturing regions, you will find slowly there is reduction in the quality of life. Then comes our last region, is the cultural region. Based upon the basis of language or culture, for example, I can say that Mizo cultural region, Naga cultural region, the Bengali cultural region, the Marathi cultural region, etc. So we have got a number of states. So based upon the number of states, we can have that kind of various cultural regions. So these are the basic types of regions, but regions can be, you can subdivide regions into more categories. It can be political regions, it can be administrative regions, it can be like based upon your requirements. So, but these are the basic types of regions. Like the political regions, you can easily categorize them into homogeneous region. What is the basis of homogeneity? That is administration homogeneity. So these are the basic types of regions. So I hope the various types of regions are clear to you.